Evening. Do we have a flag in here? Wonderful. It is 6:01 on Thursday, August 15th, and I would like to call this regular meeting of the Board of Education to order and ask that we all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Dr. Cabana,
Present.
Mr. Krim, Mr. Lopez, Mrs. Moore,
Present.
Dr. Nebarz Martinez,
Present.
Mr. Nobeski,
Present.
Dr. Rodriguez, Ms. Williams, Mrs. Willis,
Present.
quorum is present.
Thank you, and I would just note that Mr. Lopez has joined us, and Mr. Krim did let me know that he was going to be absent this evening, as did Dr. Rodriguez. So this will be who will be here today. So that brings us next to a reading of our district mission statement. Dr. Kavanaugh, can I trouble you to read that today?
Absolutely. The mission of the Lansing School District is to provide a high-quality education in a culturally safe and nurturing environment that supports all students to live purposeful and fulfilling lives.
Thank you. That brings us to see if we have any additions to the agenda. Any additions from board members this evening? Seeing none, that would take us to public comment on agenda items. None from the clerk. Ms. Strode, if you would like to address the board, just don't forget to fill out a card. Same to you, Mr. Colt, if you feel the need to address the board. That brings us to our presentations this evening. That today we are going to hear about our updates to the student handbook, and I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Cordelia Black.
Sorry. Good evening. How about that? Thank you for having me. I appreciate the time to be in front of you once again. This school year, we present to you the edits that we've made on the student and family handbook every year. And so let's get started. Okay. The objectives for this evening's presentation is about the purpose of the handbook, understanding the definition of culture and climate, the role of the student and family handbook, how we reviewing edits and recommendations, the process of the edit recommendations, the student handbook delivery, and also language accessibility. So the purpose of the handbook is really to, we use it as a resource tool. It's one tool really to establish culture in the schools and within the district, establishing safety protocols and policy, compliance policy, communication frameworks, student rights, parent rights and responsibilities, accountability, and behavior expectations. The definitions were actually adopted by the Culture and Climate Task Force that took place in 2016. My buddy, Dr. Rodriguez, is not here this evening, but he actually was a part of that task force. And when these definitions were, again, adopted, school culture refers to the values, beliefs, norms, traditions, expectations, relationships, results, and symbols that guide the whole operation or mission of the school. And then school climate refers to physical, psychological, and emotional aspect of schools that are more susceptible to change and that provide precondition necessary for teaching and learning. So the two together, it takes us really right back to the framework for great schools. In front of you, you do have the new first draft for the 24-25 school year. I'm going to get to this, but I just kind of wanted to kind of start out with a few logistics, I guess. Our edit recommendations are, again, reviewed annually. We look for grammatical corrections, typos, enhanced readability, updating graphics, revised law, policy, and board recommendations. Now we're going to look at some of the edits that were made and hope that you're happy with them. So our very first edit that we made, we found that it was wasted space, and it was, an opportunity for us to really publish our new communication protocol, Parent Square, and then of course we've had Parent View for quite some time, and that is going to be on the inside cover of the handbook. And so I thought that our communications department did a great job in finding space to have that information. It's the feedback that I've heard often over the years is, how do you find it? Where is it at? How do you log in? I don't know how, where, what. So having it as the inside cover is a good place. The next edit is on the second inside page, and it is, of course, just the update for our board members, and, of course, the table of contents. They change as, edits are made throughout the book. The following couple of pages, of course, is the message from the executive team, and the executive team remains the same as it was last school year, thankfully, and the district calendar, of course, those changes were made, and that's on page 4. The following change is on page 5, and it is our Title IX process. So on August 1st, federal law regulations changed around Title IX. So I thought it would be a good opportunity to kind of clean up the graphic. The graphic that was in the book last year and the last couple of years actually is on the left of the screen, and the new graphic is on the right, which provides a little more detail in terms of steps that need to be taken throughout the process, the grievance process. On page 11 of the student handbook, we wanted to update that as well with additional mental health information for our students, families, and staff. The graphic on the right of the screen is one that we added last school year, but we wanted to bring light to our Talkspace mental health program, where students and staff receive free mental health help at no cost, of course, free. So I just wanted to make sure that we got that in there, of course, with a QR code, so that it is easy for them to gain access. On page 11, we wanted to really highlight the new attendance codes that have been brainstormed and really carefully thought out by a subcommittee of our equity committee. They have really done some really good work in regards to coming up with the definitions, what codes work, what codes should be removed. And so I just want to, for one, highlight the collaboration between the two groups, but also bring our community up to speed in regards to the new codes and what constitutes as negative versus positive attendance.
Can I just add something?
Of course.
Awesome. Well, first of all, I really do want to highlight the work that's being done around attendance. As we all know, our district attendance goal is to hit 90% attendance. And one of the things that we have found is that schools had a hard time with the coding. Parents had a hard time with the coding. There's a lot of the communication issues. And so just being as transparent and as clear as possible, we're really trying to help the schools, help the parents, and certainly we want to urge all children to come to school every day that they can. But of course, if they are ill, we want them to take care of themselves. But I want to thank Cordelia, her team, and then also the Office of Schools in terms of how we can really work on increasing attendance for this coming year. We've increased it by 14 points in 3 years. We need to still move more on that too. So hopefully this chart will help, and then certainly just to understand that even an excused absence is still an absence. An illness is still an illness, it's an absence. And so we really appreciate when families let us know. That's really, really helpful, but it still counts as an absence, and we just have to be clear about that. But thank you, Cordelia.
Thank you. On page 18, what we wanted to do is really talk about our cell phone procedures and expectations, and put in writing that we are moving, there's a movement in our district around cell phones and removing the barriers and minimizing distractions and really prioritizing learning and instructional time. And to do that, if you look to the handbook on page 18, you will see the new procedures, cell phone procedures, and expectations for each grade band, 9 through 12, and K-8. And so with K-8, the expectation is that phones will be off and away all day. With our Lansing Technical High School, students will be expected to secure their phones as they enter, and they will retrieve their phones at the end of the school day. At our 3 high schools, Eastern Everett and Sexton, those students will be expected to hand their phones in during their first hour class, and they will receive them at the end of class, and that will be the expectation for every class period. And so, yes. Put the letter in the manual. I will document that. Sure. I think that's worthy of a conversation. I do. I don't know if our high school principals, they may already have the answer. So I can't say whether they do or not, but I would hope that we could talk about it.
Right, and everything so that people see
Sure. Absolutely. Thank you. And I'll work with the Office of Schools and our Director of Health. Maybe there's a need for collaboration there to see how we can, or to make sure we ensure that we address those concerns. Page 28, moving on. For page 28, basically what we did here is we broke out the physical assault because it was just all in one. We wanted to ensure that what we wanted to know what it was we were dealing with. Are we dealing with a situation where it's a student-to-student assault or a student-to-employee, volunteer, or contractor? So that's the difference in that definition. One's on the right bottom page and the other's at the top left side, or excuse me, right page and then the bottom left.
Ms. Black,
Yeah.
I think there might have been a change from when you guys did the presentation to when it went to print. So when there was the other pages, there was a visual so we could find you. Everything was like off by a page, but I'm not seeing, could you show us what does?
Page 28,
Okay,
I'm on page 28.
so you're looking at the tier of offenses on the left?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
At the bottom, on the bottom left, you'll see physical assault, student to student. And at the top right, physical assault, student to employee, volunteer, contractor. You're welcome. Page 31. With 31, what we did was updated the sexual assault and sexual harassment levels. With the new federal law around Title IX, it's important that all incidences are reported. And so what we did was we moved the levels to 2. So 2 is administrator-led intervention. So in other words, unfortunately, no one else in the school, no other staff member can implement interventions for these particular offenses. This is something that needs to be brought to an administrator's attention right away and immediately so that we make sure that we're following the new federal regulations around Title IX and that they're all properly investigated. On page 32, you following me, President? Sure.
Yep. And Ms. Williams, I am going to ask us to hold questions to the end, if you don't mind. Okay, thanks.
I just want to make sure, President, you're
I
with
did.
me.
I followed
Okay.
you. You're good. Thank
Okay.
you.
Page 32, we added and updated forms of intervention. So mid-page on the right, you will see forms of intervention and applicable due process. This is new. After-school detention, Saturday school, and in-school suspension has never been there. So I just kind of wanted to give more of a, just inform everyone of other types of intervention that schools are able to implement versus just being suspended. There are tons of interventions that, you know, teachers and staff and principals implement to keep students in school.
Yeah, one thing I want to add is one of the things that we've really tried to do very much since, the last 3 years is to stop removing kids from school. When a kid does something wrong and you remove them for 10 days and they're just at home playing Xbox, that's only going to cause more issues academically, socially, et cetera. And so allowing schools to have more ways of supporting children, the better. And so in-school suspensions, the high schools actually have been doing a really good job with this, and it's allowed kids to remain in school, get education, but still have more wraparound services, not necessarily being in class all the time where maybe the issues were happening, but working with a social worker, working with a guidance support staff, whoever they are, but making sure that they're still getting instruction, still getting their work, and not being kind of dispossessed from school. So I appreciate you adding that, and it's also something that we are really working on to implement so that we reduce the number of days that children are missing school because of behavior.
Absolutely. Thank you. And the same is true for page 33 in regards to our updated SNAP suspension language to match board policy and administrative guidelines. So there was a committee that convened to work on this, various members from the Office of Schools, the offices of our Deputy Superintendent's Office, and the Office of School Culture. And so we were able to come together, review law, get our language updated and into board policy. I believe that policy was brought to you for approval a couple of months ago, and I just wanted to make sure the new language was in the student handbook. Page 35. With this, if you look to the bottom right where it says appeal procedures, we wanted to make sure that we were highlighting how parents and guardians can appeal decisions made by the school, the Office of School Culture, as well as our consultation team. And so the appeal process has been kind of spelled out step by step for our parents and guardians, and who makes those decisions, who to forward those appeals to, whether or not they're when they're finalized and whatnot. And that really concludes the edits. Now, the editing process is something that we take very seriously in regards to who are the folks that participate in assisting with edits. So, of course, the Board of Education, as you all provide feedback, we go back, we research, we deliberate, and we make the changes if applicable. The executive team, of course, the equity committee representative, central administration, school administrators. And last year, I was asked to garner student voice. And I did, by Dr. Kavanaugh. She probably doesn't remember, but I made sure that I couldn't find it. I looked for it. So we did talk to students this year. I'm going to give you some of their feedback. Bear with me, one more slide, and I'll give you some of that feedback here in just a minute. The process, wait a minute, did that go? Oh, this is next year. So next year, I don't know what happened to my formatting. It kind of went off. It's kind of wonky a little bit. But next year, I'm going to guarantee to talk to students again. I actually enjoyed that process, and I want to include parents. I think that it's very important to bring parents to the table and allow them an opportunity to share as well their thoughts around the student and family handbook. And also, while we request edits from principals, I actually would like to have a school principal committee next year, members representing all grade bands. I think pre-COVID, we've kind of just been doing things by email back and forth. pre-COVID, we were actually face-to-face, and we had these committees. Post-COVID, we have not gotten back to that, and I think it's time. And here is our student voice. So there were 4 students this year, hoping to be able to, get some more students next year, and again, representing all grade bands. But we were able to get some high school students representing all 3 high schools this school year. And the questions that they were asked are on the screen. And we'll start with their overall thoughts. Some of these, their responses are overlapping, but we'll start with the first one. Overall thoughts on the student handbook. They felt that it was too lengthy, but it was important information. Of course, occasional big words. They wanted us to bring it down a little bit. They felt like the disciplinary process was spelled out very well. There was one particular student that wants to see more athletic information in the book, and it goes along with some of the other comments a little further down about wanting to split this handbook into 2 sections. One section for parents, one section for students, which I thought was a really good idea. They felt like the dress code section was helpful in terms of which section was most or least helpful for them. Other parts of the handbook that they found confusing and not as clear. They felt like it was pretty straightforward. But the rules are clear, they're fair in this book, but unfortunately in school, they tend to bend and change. And so they didn't give any feedback in terms of how we should address that, but I think that it's definitely something that we need to share with our administrators. Are there any changes you would suggest making to the handbook? They felt like they wanted to see the grading process for both elementary and high school. And I think it's really a great idea. We've been having some conversation around the House in regards to primarily preparing 8th graders for high school and helping them understand credits and knowing really what that means and how impactful that is to them graduating. Superintendent, did you want to say something? Oh, okay. I saw you grab the mic. So okay. All right. And does the handbook engage your interests? And all of them said no. And I think, again, going back to their point of it being wordy. And that's part of the reason why over the last couple of years, I have really tried to add more and more graphics to the handbook because it's quick, it's easy, and to the point. And so, I think I'm going to continue to do that, but make sure, I stay between the 4 corners of the rules. Is the handbook accessible to all students? Yes, it is. It's online. Some felt like there should be more hard copies in schools. Each school receives 30 copies, and they just didn't feel that was enough. So we can have that conversation. I don't see that being a problem, but yeah. No, it's not of any interest. The handbook accessible to all students, yes. It's multilingual. There should be more handed out to students. And then also, I think the last one is just a repeat. They feel like it's fair. The rules are fair. The information is meaningful. But one student told me, I'll just give this to my mom and she'll tell me what's in it. So I thought that was kind of cute. Let's see. And then the delivery, speaking of which, how it is delivered to our families and students, we're covered pretty good. We have print copies, digital copies. It's on our website. We have attached it to our superintendent's newsletter. It goes out to all mailboxes. We're going to make sure it's attached to our new communication tool, Parent Square, not squared. There's a typo there. I apologize for that. And what do we have next? Language accessibility with our Deputy Superintendent Sergio Keck and his department. They have taken on the charge of making sure that this manual is translated in multiple languages, the top 10, 8 languages, and so it's available. And it's also available online in those languages as well. So with that concludes my presentation, and I will take questions if you have any.
Thank you. To the superintendent, do you have anything to add before questions? Perfect. Ms. Williams, you're up first.
On page 42, you're asking that we do,
On the left.
okay, I'll look for it later. Thank you.
It's
Oh, okay, third one down? Is it the,
second
oh,
one down.
I see it. Oh, yeah, I don't know how that's been there for 3 years, too. Okay,
Did I, Ms. Williams?
yeah. Yeah, good
Oh,
question, really good question. So the levels are attached to what types of intervention and who imposes the intervention. So if you look back to page 37, the levels are kind of described there, and there's all kinds of samples for folks to use. It's not an exhaustive list, of course, but level 1 is a teacher staff directed. And so an infraction that falls under level 1, a principal may not ever see. And that's okay, because we want teachers to manage their classrooms and have control of their classrooms and be able to establish themselves and build relationships with students, and that's how you do it. And then level 2 is administrative directed interventions, and that's what I was saying earlier, how we move those sexual offenses over to level 2, because an administrator needs to be aware and then take the next steps if necessary. And then, of course, level 3 would be an in-school alternative that might look like in-school suspension. It might look like Saturday school. It could look like, hey, let's just call your parent or guardian. Level 4 is out-of-school intervention. And 5 and 6 are considered for expulsion. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep, I'm aware of that. In fact, I've already asked our comms department, print department to be on standby for next year, because we are doing a complete overhaul of the student handbook. There are just a couple parts in here that I just feel like they should be on different pages and aligned a little better. So thank you for raising that. Thank you.
Dr. Kavanaugh?
Mine are all picky little things. So first of all, I really liked how for the I think talk space you had the QR code. Now that we have the information about Parent Square and Parent View on the first page, it might be helpful to have QR codes there as well for those
Okay.
two websites.
Okay.
Just something to consider. On page 29, when you're talking about cheating and plagiarism, I think something maybe, for us to consider as a district as a whole is how we want to consider work that was done with the help of AI tools. Because as read here, it says falsely presenting work as your own original work. And I'm just not sure. I feel like AI tools can be a gray space. I know that different parents and different teachers might have different feelings about the use of those technologies, but if we're thinking about the language in the handbook, it might just be helpful to clarify either way or have some kind of note that says AI tools will be at the discretion of the teacher. I don't know. I'm not going to tell you what's right,
Absolutely.
but just
Yeah.
something to consider is we're not mentioning AI, which I know a lot of students are using. Lastly, this is just for my curiosity. If you go to page 38, I love talking about the discipline stuff. If you go to page 38, I'm looking at the administrator-directed interventions, numbers 14 and 15, so right at the top of page 38. I'm curious what those look like. So who is the adult mentor? What is adult pairing check-in, check-out? Just
Yeah.
could you tell me more about those interventions?
Sure. So, our student support specialists, they oftentimes have caseloads of students, or an administrator may assign a student to a SSS or a hall monitor or a public safety officer, just to check in with that student. How you doing? Are you okay? Do you need anything? Superintendent Sheldner spoke earlier about how we do a lot of wraparounds with students. That's part of, or could be part of, a wraparound process. So if the student is not, maybe the student is assigned a counselor. Counselor might see the student on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Well, on Mondays and Wednesdays, it could be the SSS checking in with that student. Just to check in and see how the student is doing, if they need anything, if they, feel like they're troubled by something, if they want to talk about anything. A lot of times that's in the AM and PM. So it really just depends on how it's been established with whoever imposed the intervention, but that's pretty much what it looks like. That could be in the hallway, that could be during lunch, it could be before school, after school, it could be, we have, during tutoring, and then pairing. A lot of the pairing is, it could be a teacher even. So a teacher might take that extra, 2, 3, 4 minutes just to hold a student back, check on that student, how you doing, do you need anything, et cetera. So, yeah. And I just want to say one more thing too. In most cases, all of it is documented as an intervention in our student, our Synergy platform, SIS. Yeah. Yep.
Dr. Navarez-Martinez?
Yeah, thank you so much. My question is around the process for engaging the students and the parents. For the students, which you did this last year, was it a focus group? Was it a survey? How did you know that they actually went through the handbook before giving you the feedback? And then I noticed that a lot of them said that they wanted like athletics information in there, and if you're gonna be adding that as well.
Yeah, so it was somewhat of a conversation focus group, hybrid, I guess. We grabbed a few students. We asked them if they were interested. At first they were like, in what? So after we broke it down and shared with them the student handbook, do you know what it is? Again, they don't read it. So we did have to sit with them and go through the book with them. And then we had pre-written questions. So we gave them a handbook with their questions and let them go home, and we reconvened with them the very next day. And then we talked through their feedback with them. Yeah.
Will you be adding the athletic stuff in
Oh,
there,
I'm
or-
sorry. We talked about that this morning. Yes, I think that there's an opportunity to add some athletic information. A lot of what they wanted was schedules, but that's kind of hard to do because this manual is a fall. It comes out in the fall, and then we have sports all year. So that piece,
Yeah, I was just gonna say, we really appreciate they want to know like when the games are, but because this is once a year, what I think we can do to go back to the conversation about the QR code is that we could probably include links to our schedules that are
Yes.
then updated every
Love it.
everything. So
Love
I,
it.
but I will say that with the creation of the new director of enrichment and some of the more clarity around things like eligibility, I think this is a really good place to put things like, to play a sport, you have to have a GPA of X, and that
Absolutely.
way they can
Yeah,
get
and
that.
like
So.
physicals and when those need to
Absolutely.
be in and that kind of stuff, I think would be really useful.
definitely.
How to, yeah.
All set? Great. Mr. Lopez?
Thank you. First of all, thank you for the work. It's a Bible, huh?
Yeah, I used to say that. This was my Bible when I was in schools. This was my guide. So, and
Okay.
again, students, they feel like it's fair. So,
So first of all, on page 5,
yes,
what is Title 9?
yes. So,
I think Title 9 is federal, that is enforced by U.S. Department of Education and Labor enforced. I think it needs to be edited. And, it's our Title 9 is federal, what that is enforced and enforces.
oh, okay. Yes, thank
Yeah,
you for
okay.
pointing that out. I see that.
Okay.
Yes, thank
So
you.
that first sentence needs to be corrected.
Yes, it does. Yes. Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, I've done my work for the day. No, okay. Couple of areas. Overall, it's a pretty large document. Is there a possibility you can put together a Cliff Notes kind of thing?
I
Where
think
it's a pamphlet or a 1 or 2 pager folded that has the highlights and then refers them to page whatever in the handbook?
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful idea. I think it's, and to get it in it's easier for folks to read. So, absolutely. Our communications director is here, Ryan. I will be working with Ryan on that. So Cliff Notes, it is. I think that it's, really quick, at a glance. Folks can, get whatever
Just highlights,
information they need. Some of the more, some of the things that come up the most. So yeah, I'm all for that.
Yeah, okay. Good. Be glad to see that. On the suspensions in school and Saturday school suspensions, is that do we have teachers that are with the students, certified teachers? So is that an additional cost to the district?
Yes, I believe they are paid additional hours, and then so I do know that teachers are there, support staff, as well as our principals. So in terms of, and that's Saturday school, in terms of our in-house, I'm going to have to lean on the office
sure.
schools. Do we have a certified teacher in the?
Yeah, I mean, we allow this as an option for schools, right? So some principals think that it's a really good and helpful thing where they have Saturday schools and they tend to have not only certified teachers but an administrator there. But why? And it's in the handbook because it's an option for. We don't run a lot of the Saturday programming for transportation reasons and all sorts of other things, but we do have schools that do it. I mean, we also like what we didn't put in here, which is not disciplinary in nature, but like the Ebersol weekends. There's a lot of stuff that we do on the weekends, but the reason why it's in the handbook is just that it's an option. We don't do it that often because of lots of reasons, but when they do, it's typically with an administrator and or certified teacher. But I don't know, Jess, if there's anything you want to add to that.
Just like you said, it's an option for our schools to have. If students are in in-school suspension, though, they do have access to the curriculum and to a certified teacher in that space.
Okay. So this is
And I also know that they work a lot on social emotional learning, so like life skills and things like that. And in most cases, these are interventions, so parents have been notified. As we spoke about earlier, this is all about keeping kids in school.
Sure.
And not having them out.
Well, that's great. But again, let me understand that right.
Yeah.
It's an option for the school administrator to offer in-school suspension after hours or Saturday school. And that comes out of their building budget?
Yes, sir.
It's something that they're going to, okay. Good.
And not to belabor the point, schools have budgets that allow them to do a lot of these things, a lot of extra hours, and if they think it's best to do this, great. If they think it's best to do something else, great too, you know.
Okay. Hopefully they make the right decisions. So, on the expulsion thing, you have 30 days from day of expulsion to do an investigation and make a recommendation to the superintendent about that student. Superintendent has 10 days to bring it or not to bring it to the board. I think to bring it to the board.
Well, so, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, you know, I think we run into problems when we have students that are out that long, and obviously they're not going to come back very quick, but for the investigation and for quick correction, is there a possibility that things can be expedited on those situations?
Of course. All of these, processes in terms of, investigations and reports and all of that can be expedited. When it comes to expulsions, students have unfortunately got involved in a situation that it's okay. That have gotten where they've gotten involved in a situation that requires them to be first suspended for up to 10 days. In order for a student to be suspended for more than 9 school days, they have to call the Office of School Culture, consult about the incident. That student comes out after that 10th day for what we call a due process hearing, meeting, for them to be able to come out and share their side of the story, what they think and how they feel the situation went down. It's, at the end of the day, they're provided voice. The investigation during that 10-day period is happening, and the report is being written. So in most cases, at the due process hearing, the public safety officer report is completed. So it really doesn't take that long to conduct these investigations. Our public safety officers and principals are really good about conducting investigations and completing them and getting them to the Office of School Culture, where we dig deeper and further. We may call the school and ask questions about what we see in the report. If a student is up for expulsion, it is going to be of one of the 4 major offenses where federal law mandates an expulsion. And so, and then at that time, they are then seen by the consultation team, who makes the decision of whether or not all the elements are present in order to expel a student. We don't expel hastily here. Just last year, we had 3 expulsions. One was an assault to a student, and 2 were assaults to staff. And so very rarely are students being expelled, but I think the consultation team takes a really deep dive in the situations and hold our building staff accountable to making sure the elements of the infraction are present prior to a student being expelled. Once expelled, it depends on whether or not it's a state mandated expulsion or not. If it's not, then they can bring a student back before that 180 days. But a permanent expulsion, state mandated, is 180 school days that they will be out. And that is for physical assault to an employee or a contractor, criminal sexual conduct, arson, or a weapon.
Okay, on page 34, the last sentence says, part of the last sentence, the superintendent shall have 10 additional days after the 30 days for the report in which to bring an expulsion recommendation to the board.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So,
The 10 days. That's the first 10 days of being out of the school. And that's immediately at that point, that's when we bring them in to the consultation team.
well, I don't read it that way. Maybe I'm not reading it right.
So I think I know what you're saying. I think you're saying because it's the superintendent, the word superintendent. Is
I'm
that
saying that it says, a recommendation point number 6, a recommendation to permanently expel a student shall be presented to the Board of Education or is designated by the superintendent of schools within 30 days, within 30 school days following the suspension based on the resulting investigation of the incident by the appropriate school safety officer and or public safety department central staff. Should extenuating circumstances arise, superintendent shall have 10 additional school days in which to bring an expulsion recommendation to the board.
right? So what year was that? I want to go back to 2016. The Board of Education asked that the Office of School Culture's consultation team act on behalf of you. And so we do not bring those expulsions to you all. We handle the consultation team handles the expulsions, and I am the designee of our superintendent.
Okay.
And the consultation team is considered the arm of the Board of Education in making those decisions around whether or not a student will be expelled or not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't want to go any further than the 16, but I know why we did that, because the board used to hear those.
Yep.
And there were some questions that came out from the board's perspective that were not touched by the investigations reported. So I guess at this point, I'm not opposed to reviewing or asking that we change that, but I am asking that we be informed of the suspensions and rationale why they were suspended, expelled, excuse me, from school. Rationale. And I guess at this point, because sometimes the public wants to see the board take action on certain things that are very important to them. And maybe not seeing the board, maybe they think that we're not keeping track of things.
Well, I want you to be in the loop, so I'll make sure that I work with our superintendent and we provide you whatever information we can.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And finally, okay. I guess there's things about, behavior issues, and I'm not sure there's another word for behavior, but I'll leave it at that for right now. I was thinking about it because sometimes words have different meanings to folks.
Yep.
And behavior of students, also behavior of schools, behavior of staff. So I think I don't know if there's a replacement word, but we might think about that.
That's fair.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Navarez-Martinez?
Yes, so I have another comment. So the Title IX information is really obviously written in legalese because it's a policy. But I just wanted to mention that this might be an opportunity for creating maybe an additional slide or graphic on Title IX that's more appropriate for the students, since they all did mention that there was very complicated language and it's a very important thing for them to understand. And I'm sure there's already resources out there where they've simplified the language for younger adults and for children maybe even to understand what it is. So I think that would be a really great resource for them.
That's fair. Thank you.
Sure. Ms. Nowinski?
Thank you. Kind of along those lines, looking at the parent page, on page 8, the district-wide advisory council is there, and I've obviously participated in that and enjoy that, but maybe if there's a way to add school, school information or similar to the schedules where there'd be a code that they could then go to their school page to know how to get involved in their local school improvement team, or if there is a family teacher organization, something about that being included. And I really support the comment from the students on separating, the student and parent aspects of this. That might be an opportunity to get the technical language in one spot and more student-friendly language in another. When I got first involved with the board, looking at a policy on parent engagement and found that there are several district policies that name a requirement to put that district policy into the student handbook. Some of them are pretty arcane. One is on performance-enhancing drugs. And it says that a list should be developed by the State Department every year, and this notice and list shall be published in the Parent-Student Handbook annually. So just some tiny things like that I think as a board, we need to go back and look and say, do we really want that in our policy? If we do, then we need to give you that feedback to include it. If we don't, then we need to address our policy. I had a list of about 10 or 12 of those where it says this should be in the student handbook verbatim. And I think given this conversation, we might need to go back and say, we either need to comply with that and find out where to put those technical language pieces, or say, change our policy to not require it.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I can
that-
send you that list of what I had
Okay.
searched under what should be in the student handbook per those policies.
Yeah, I really want to highlight what Dan is saying. I think when you create large documents like this, it has a lot, but it doesn't necessarily have all the things it's supposed to. And I really appreciate you going through it. I would love to make sure that the two of you speak and go through it, and then go to Sergio and the policy committee to see if, in fact, we still need something about steroids. Maybe we do. I don't know. But, I think it would be really helpful, because then we can be really clear about matching board policy to handbook, which is basically procedure. And in fact, I was doing some reading today. One of the things that the Michigan School Boards Association talks about is really sitting down and going kind of line by line with policy and the handbook and making sure that they sit. So thank you for doing that, and I think we could take care of that pretty quickly.
Absolutely.
Just for me, because we mentioned in the book, we'll say like board policy 9510, maybe putting that in there so the parents know what it actually reads. While we know what they mean, they don't know. So when we reference a policy, maybe put that policy in there as well, or just a small snapshot of
Yep.
what it means.
Yep.
Might be even helpful, that could be one of those things that could be QR coded or linked in too, because in case it changes over the course of the year. Well, that's a great idea too. Any other questions from board members? I don't have a question, but a comment I may or may not be telling on myself, but the parent view, when you log in each at the beginning of the year and you put in your child's information and you make sure your stuff is updated, it has a series of questions that it forces you to answer, right? And it asks you to acknowledge a couple of things, and one of the things it asks you to acknowledge is that you received the student handbook, and then it goes to a second page and it goes into like why we want you to acknowledge the student handbook, because it's important, and it adds all this stuff, but it doesn't actually make you do it. Not that I have tried to press yes without actually clicking the link. But if someone were to press yes without clicking the link, it does allow them to. So I don't know if there's another way for us to actually make sure that there's that parent, because if I'm busy and I'm just clicking through and I just want to see
Yeah.
my kid's schedule, I'm
Yep.
not going to click that link.
Yep. Thank you for lifting that. We will look into that. Thank you.
Not that I'm
Thank
trying to
you.
give every parent homework, but
And I did not know that because, of course, I'm not a parent, and so I don't have the opportunity of going in there, clicking yes. So thank you.
all right, thank you. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, we will move on the agenda. Thank you so much, Ms. Black, and thank you so much to my colleagues for the robust conversation. Oh, that brings us to you, Mr. Superintendent. Report from Superintendent Ben.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. After a very good presentation, I don't want to take too long, but one thing I do want to highlight about the great work that Cordelia did is that a lot of the changes that you're starting to see in the behavioral language is a direct input from the equity committee. So, you know, there's been some really nice work over the last couple of years where we are, again, trying to make sure kids stay in school more, are not removed, that language is not as biased, that there's a lot of things that we're doing. So we can always do better with the student handbook, but I appreciate how much this board is invested in asking these deep questions because it only allows us to get better. So I think it's been really good with that. Other things, of course, I mean, it goes without saying, school starts less than a week from now. It's been amazing and crazy all at the same time. You know, I am really thankful for everybody's hard work. I do want to certainly point out that, you know, in the coming weeks, there are going to be some really kind of wonderful changes and some wonderful additions to the district. The one that I'm really, really excited about is the opening of the Newcomer Center that's on the property of Gardner, or next to Gardner. We're also really working at some new ways of thinking about our athletics, but also all of our extracurriculars together and our enrichment programs together. That was the big move, going from a director of athletics to a director of enrichment. We're starting to really think about what does a K-12 dance program look like, K-12 art program look like. There's also a big push to increase the number of advanced placement classes at our high schools. You know, Lansing is an amazing district, and we need to hold ourselves to an even higher standard, making sure we know our kids can learn. We know our kids can learn at a high level. If we increase the rigor and the relevance of the work, we're really looking forward to that, and thank the high schools for doing that. If you drive by Mount Hope, there's a building there. You can't go in there yet, but it really is quite amazing. But there's been a lot of kind of new changes to the district that I hope people are recognizing that this is the kind of this rebirth of Lansing. We've put new fencing around a lot of our elementary schools, which is both precautionary and safety, but it also helps to spruce up the land. There's a lot that we're doing, and I just want to thank the team and thank the community. We wouldn't be able to do all of this if it wasn't for bond work, but also just the support. You know, you're sending your kids to us. I don't know what enrollment's going to look like this year. It looks like it's holding steady. We'll get a better understanding probably in a week or two, but certainly if you're listening at home, you probably know to register your child, but if you are in fact listening at home and you have not registered your child, please do so. Today we had a large enrollment event, which I know tens of families came to, and you know, really just want to thank the community. We do understand that this is a little early this year. August 21st is a little bit early. It has to do with all sorts of calendar issues. If you've noticed, a lot of schools are starting with us on next Wednesday, but it just means that you gotta get your kid enrolled. If you are having problems with paperwork, with, you know, any things like immunizations or birth certificates, please, please, please let us know. We actually are, I think, are the only school district in the state right now piloting a digital birth certificate. So there's ways that we can actually access that, which would be amazing. And certainly we're here to support you. But please, if you've started your application, application, but you have not finished it, you gotta finish it. We are here to help you because we certainly need to make sure that all the paperwork is in order to have you all, of course, send your children to school. So with that, I just am super excited about next Wednesday. All the staff, teachers are coming back on Monday. Thank you for that. And let's just have a wonderful, great year. I thank the board. I thank the staff. I thank the community. I thank the teachers. I thank the principals. I thank the kids. I thank the parents. I thank everybody because we can't really do this without everybody pulling together. So with that, turn it back over to our president, and thanks for the time.
Thank you so much. Next on the agenda is our committee reports. So it looks like our facilities committee had a very robust meeting without me, sorry, on Monday. I'm going to turn our facilities report update to Mr. Lopez.
Thank you, Madam President. Well, as you say, the committee met on the 12th, which is Monday, and we received updates on Penn Gale School addition construction. Highlight is that the slabs for the units will start arriving tomorrow. So the base of for the units is complete, and as I said, the slabs will be arriving Friday, and shortly after will be attached to the floor. On Mount Hope, the schedule is on track, if not ahead of schedule, so that was good news. You can add anything that you want as I speak, okay? All right. Willow Construction. The wells for the geothermal are being done. Not sure if did they complete it or they're working on them right now. Yeah, they're working on it. And still, Willow is still a lot of groundwork that's being done there. Luton Construction, based on parent input, this construction may be delayed, if not will be delayed for a year because of the changes that are being considered in consultation with parent community. So, any input on that?
I think the only thing I'd add, I know that we have on our consent agenda to approve some of these bidders. You might notice more items where there is only a single bid than usual. And it was explained to us that that's because of the nature of kind of like the seasonal work where we're trying to jam a whole bunch of work into the summer when the kids aren't around. And so then it can be harder to get as many bids as we might get for another project. So in case you're like, oh wait, there's so many that only have one bid, that's just the nature of some of the seasonal work that we're trying to get done.
Right, and those folks have done work or have been doing work for the district, so basically we know them and are pretty much okay with their work, and so that's why we're moving on that. Other than that, let me see. That's pretty much it. We'll go to the consent agenda, and if you have any questions at that time, maybe Dr. Kavanaugh and I can respond to that. If not, we'll go to Christina, who has all the answers. She lives for this.
I do have one question, since this is on the consent agenda. We have a lot of recommendations to do some work at Hill, and the fund source is the Community Center grant. I just want to confirm that, is that the grant that was directed to us from the state?
Yes,
Okay.
so it was the $2 million grant that we were awarded.
Just checking. All right, thanks.
Yes. Well, that's our report.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, let's move on to the consent agenda. May I have a motion?
Madam President, I move that the Board of Education approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you. It's been moved by Dr. Kavanaugh, supported by Ms. Moore. For the record, the consent agenda includes the approval of the August 1st regular meeting minutes, as well as the August 7th board retreat minutes, as well as the following bid recommendations, Post Oak digital sign, boilerplate replacement, Hill gymnasium renovations, which includes demolition, concrete, masonry, interiors, painting, specialties, fire suppression, HVAC, electrical fire alarm, and safety. It's consent agenda, so I will accept, ready, call the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. That brings us on to some action items. We do have a couple of action items before us this evening. The first one is the recommendation that the board approve the following contracts as presented. We can do them all together, or we can separate them. My preference is that we do them together, but is at the will of the board. I will entertain a motion before we open the floor to questions.
Madam President, I move that the
Dr. Navarez Martinez.
I move that the Board of Education approve the following contracts as presented. Deputy Superintendent of Special Populations, Deputy Superintendent of Schools, Assistant Superintendent of Budget and Finance, Executive Director of School Culture and Climate, Chief Operating Officer, Senior Director of Elementary and Middle Schools, Senior Director of K-8 Schools, Senior Director of High Schools, Senior Director of Special Education, Senior Director of Human Resources.
Thank you. It's been moved by Dr. Navarez Martinez, supported by
Second.
Dr. Kavanaugh. Sure thing. And just hit your mic, Ms. Williams. It's okay.
I actually was going to ask that we move to postpone definitely until next week because we just got the contracts and I want to be able to read them all.
Oh my God, I'm being challenged because if there's a motion on the floor and then someone moves, you need to move to table it.
Yeah.
Or do I have to take the floor? Or she just has to say, we're not at our horseshoe. I
We're
don't have
looking at
my
Dan.
Robert's rules in front of me.
looking at Dan.
Dan, what do we do?
The appropriate motion is to postpone definitely.
Postpone is the motion?
Yeah, the commonly used term lay on the table is a different motion. That's only for when there's immediate business that interrupts, but.
And postponing definitely supersedes a motion on the floor. I have to take, so she's made a motion, someone needs to support that motion, and then I need to take a vote on that first, right?
It can be discussed and then.
Right,
voted on.
right. It's a regular motion, but it supersedes the motion on the table. So, there's been a motion by Ms. Williams to postpone indefinitely the motion on the floor. Nope.
Definitely. Indefinitely is a different motion, which has lower precedence, but definitely to the time specified.
So do we have to declare when definitely is? Do we have to define it?
I did say until our next board meeting.
Perfect. So the motion, the recommendation is to postpone until the next board meeting. Perfect. Postpone definitely until the next board meeting. You got it, Alex? Okay. Postpone definitely until the next board meeting. Next scheduled regular board meeting, I should say. So that's clear. All right. I have a motion. Is there any support?
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Williams, supported by Mr. Nowinski. Any questions or comments? Mr. Nowinski?
Yes, I'd like to have the discussion. I'm just curious if the timing of that will have any impact on anything related to the contract, if we consider it tonight or at the next meeting.
As far as I know, as per the new kind of state understanding, it can still go into effect on the date of which the number is there. Yeah, I will just remind the board that these are the same language that we did discuss previously at retreats.
Thank you. Dr. Kavanaugh? Oh, okay. Any additional questions or comments for the motion on the floor? Can the clerk please call the roll? Sorry, thank you. The motion on the floor, which is to postpone definitely to the next regular scheduled board meeting.
Dr. Kavanaugh,
No.
Mr. Lopez,
Nope.
Mrs. Moore,
No.
Dr. Navarez Martinez,
No.
Mr. Nobesky,
Yes.
Ms. Williams, Mrs. Willis,
No. That motion does not prevail. The count is 5 noes, 2 yeses. So that brings us back to the motion on the floor, which is the recommendation to approve the contracts as presented. Are there questions or comments to the motion on the floor? Mr. Lopez?
Thank you. I'm going to support the motion. However, I want to just make sure that as we continue to work with with all our employees, and I know that most other employees have a bargaining unit that works to better their income or their salaries, that this administration do whatever it can within the guidelines of negotiation to improve our employee salaries and wages, starting from our part-timers and up to our teachers, and that we look at that as we approve salaries for executive staff. We need to not forget that we have other people that are in the trenches every day, dealing with the things that we're talking about in our handbook. So I feel very strongly that, and I know that, at least, I think I know that the administration is in that. That's why I say the rest of the staff have their bargaining units that represent them, but I know that we can do our part and try to better those wages as much as we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from board members? Ms. Moore?
I just want to thank Trustee Lopez for lifting that. We do have our bargaining units that we can support, but I also want to ditto what you said, so thank you for that.
Any additional questions or comments? I'm just going to make the comment that I really appreciate that we have an administration that works really hard, and we certainly appreciate that. We also know that our staff work really hard, and I know the superintendent has been intentional about doing two things. One, by supporting these contracts, we're supporting and maintaining the talent that we know we need to have to run a district of this size and of this complexity, but also wanting to make sure that we are recognizing that it's not just the leadership that makes the district successful, it's all of the other folks, and it's an and situation. And I appreciate that the superintendent is making steps to tie future contracts to the same standards and steps for that we're holding all the staff accountable, so that there's some parity there. So I do appreciate that. Any additional questions or comments?
Yes, just briefly,
Sure.
I'd just say too, the motion that failed, I do think was a lot to digest, especially as a new board member, to get all the contracts. I don't have any reason to oppose them. I think we've talked in concept, but, and I do appreciate all that the executive team has done to move the district forward, so I'll support the motion.
Thank you. All right. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Dr. Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Mr. Lopez,
Yes.
Mrs. Moore,
Yes.
Dr. Nevares Martinez,
Yes.
Mr. Nobisky,
Yes.
Ms. Williams, Mrs. Willis,
Yes. Motion passes 6-1. That brings us to our next action item this evening, which is to approve the Elevate K-12 contract as presented. May I have a motion?
Madam President,
Mr. Nowinski.
I move that the Board of Education approve the Elevate K-12 contract as presented.
Second.
Is that Dr. Kavanaugh? Thank you. It was moved by Mr. Nowinski, approved by Dr. Kavanaugh. Any questions or comments from board members this evening?
I do have a
Sure
question.
thing, Mr. Lopez.
Yes. So, just for the record, the staff will be receiving continuous training or professional development in the implementation of this program?
Yes.
Okay. Is that done on a regular basis per subject, or how does it work?
So it's done basically around the platform itself and how to navigate the students and navigate the platform and work with the certified teacher that's live on the system. So it's not necessarily subject specific. It's more about how to navigate the platform, if that makes sense.
Yeah, in a
Sure
way,
thing.
but so we have a certified teacher online and we have a certified teacher in the classroom. Is
I'm
that right?
sorry.
It's not going to be delegated to teacher assistants. in the classroom?
No, correct. And I'm happy to bring Ms. Benavides in as well.
So just a couple of things. We will have a guest teacher in those classrooms with the certified teacher that is on the K-12 or the screen in the classroom. So there will be 2 adults. Part of the professional development fees is also creating the conditions for learning, because we do have a teacher in the room. So there's a lot of collaboration time of how does the teacher in the room interface with the teacher on the screen to provide the best learning environment for our students. So that's a lot of the professional development as well, is how does the teacher in the room interface with the teacher online to create that environment for kids. Because it's a different model than we've taught before.
Are these trainings required?
For the guest teachers and yes.
Okay.
This also does not stop us. We continue to look for a certified teacher for the classroom. So this is a stopgap during that time. The postings are still available. We are still looking for a certified teacher to fill that spot, but this is the stopgap in that time.
Ms. Moore?
I love this, I just want to tell you that. But I do have some questions. So the virtual teacher will be in the room with a TA, you're saying a guest teacher. Is it a sub, what?
Sure. So a guest teacher has bare minimum. It's same as a substitute teacher that we would get, so an associate's degree or more.
Right.
So several of our guest teachers actually have bachelor's degrees that are subject level certified, but they do not have the teaching certificate yet. So the certified teacher that's on the screen actually has that certification. It might be from another state, that sort of thing, and then with the, transferring it from state to state, there's that piece there, but they're a certified teacher. And then we have our guest teacher in the classroom that has the permit that's available to be in the room, that is certified to be in the room with the students.
So a teacher's assistant is what I'm hearing, is something.
Kind of, but some of them actually have subject level education because they have a
Okay.
bachelor's degree in that education field.
Okay.
They just don't have their teaching certificate at this time.
Yeah,
So I'm just trying to figure out why we would have 2 teachers in the room if we,
Sure.
Sure. So think about it this way, on a normal day, Mrs. Jones calls out sick. We go get a sub. That sub has to have certain certifications, right? Be it bachelor's or 60 plus or whatever it is. So we also know that if you're a sub, you're not a fully certified teacher. So what this allows us to do is, on a normal day, we would have last year just had a sub in the room. Now we have a sub with an actual certified teacher, but that certified teacher might be in Hawaii. We don't really know where they are, but they're a certified teacher. And I think one of the things that we might have written down is they're certified to teach. Some of them might have certification in, let's say, Oklahoma, and then they're getting their Michigan. Everybody who's doing it online is in process of getting a state certified, but they are certified teachers. So think of it not necessarily as a teacher's aide. These are sub-teachers who would have been in the class anyway. Now we're supporting them with an actual certified teacher that's online.
I love it. I love the support. So my next question, will our virtual teachers be teaching standard live classes or the premium live classes? I was really excited about the premium live classes.
So the standard live classes, right, but that goes with all of the Michigan state standards.
Okay.
So I want to make that very clear that, like, the bare minimum is exactly what they should be teaching.
Okay.
So yes, that's what we're getting.
And how many virtual teachers will we have?
Sure. So right now we actually spent some time last night, a whole team of us working through all of this. I believe right now we're at maybe 2 total. We actually are at a really good staffing point at this very moment in time, I'm happy to announce, but 2 teachers total across multiple schools. So that's based by section, subject level by section. So we actually have teachers teaching 1 or 2 sections here or there where we need to fill a gap. I think we're around 2, maybe 4. It's very little, but again, we have the guest teacher in the classroom as well.
And where this really is super helpful for a district our size is, you have one section of physics you just can't fill, right? And so here you have a teacher that's certified in physics that you can kind of beam in, and then you still have the sub-teacher who would have been there anyway doing this. And so the total might be 2 or 4, but really think of that as maybe 16 classes, right, throughout the day. So, and so far, I mean, the pilot we did last year,
Yep.
they seem to really like it.
That's what I was
So.
gonna say. So we had a pilot at Dwight
Yeah.
Rich last year, and it went really, really, it went really well.
And
So
that
that's
was
why
my
we've
next
expanded the program. Yep.
Feedback, so,
Yes.
great, thank you, that's
Yep.
all I have.
Yeah, and maybe this is just getting too much into the logistics, but how does it work? So like, do we have a specific room, and then if your teacher's not here, you go to that room, and that's all set up with all of the like electrical
Sure.
things you need,
So-
the TVs and the,
Right.
you know, or do we have the equipment in all of the classrooms?
We have the equipment in all of the classrooms, so I'm grateful that you lifted that. So we actually have clever touches, so like what you're looking at here. So in all of our classrooms in the district, we have all of these available. We're also one-to-one with all of our students, so they all have a device in the classroom. So all of our classrooms district-wide are set up to receive or give digital instruction.
So they'll have the teacher, they'll all have the teacher on their little screen?
It'll
that they
be
have
on the large screen in the front.
Okay.
They'll be able to do work on their computer. They'll be able to chat live with their teacher, just in the room with camera or on the chat. And then they have the guest teacher in the room also to help facilitate the instruction, create the environment, like Ms. Benavides said. So it's all happening live. It is a live instructional model.
That's great.
It is not a delayed, online model.
And one thing that really bears to be repeated, and I want to give a big shout out to the union and to Chuck for really understanding how helpful this is. At no point is this seen as a replacement of a live certified teacher in the classroom. These are classes that we haven't been able to fill yet. The moment we fill them, we can then move these away. So this is why in the staffing situation that we and every other school district in America is in, we want to be creative and thoughtful and figure out a way to get a certified teacher, be it digitally or in person. But each of those classes would still have a vacancy notice, so we would be interviewing for that physics teacher or that math teacher, depending.
Right.
So.
And I just wanted to point out as well, a few other districts in the state of Michigan that are using this program. So we're not like the first that's piloting this. Grand Rapids, Beecher Community Schools, Hart Public, Lincoln Consolidated, Grosse Ile, Van Dyke, Lakeview School District, and Dollar Bay Tamarack. So those are just a few in Michigan. So it's kind of all over the place, anywhere from the UP to the Southeast to Grand Rapids, obviously. So everybody's kind of starting to delve into this, and it's worked well.
Madam Chair, President? Thank you. So, we start school on Wednesday, right? So we know which classrooms are gonna have this
We do.
program. And those teachers that are gonna start Wednesday with this program have been trained or have received
They
professional
will,
development on this
they will receive professional development on this prior to Wednesday. Yes.
prior to Wednesday, okay.
Yes.
That's kind of a quick turnaround, did you think?
It is. Teachers report back on Monday. And so as part of their time reporting back on Monday and Tuesday, they will receive professional development on this, and they will have additional support from the principals and other staff members in their schools as well.
How many classrooms do we have that are gonna be on this program?
I think we might be able to pull it up here for you for
Or-
just a
Or should
second.
I ask,
It's-
how many teachers are gonna be in this
Yeah,
program?
so it's kind of, the teacher part is kind of hard because it's subject-based. So we might have, let's say, one math certified teacher that might be teaching 2 sections district-wide. We might have a physics teacher, like Ben mentioned, teaching 1. We might have a science teacher teaching 3. So I think Jessica's pulling that up right now. What we're looking at is a few math, science, I think are our biggest ones.
So right now we have 7 sections being taught with K-12 Elevate. So when I say sections, that means periods. So in an average day, there are 6 class periods. So we have 7 across the entire district at various schools for lots of different reasons.
So it's not school-wide, that's what I'm trying to get.
Oh, no, we
Okay.
have, for example, Lansing Tech, Sheridan Road, and I think there's, and
North, maybe?
and North.
And North,
Those are our
yep.
3 right now that will be employing this model.
Okay, thank you.
Madam President. And so my understanding correctly, this gives us flexibility by purchasing these contracts to what we have right now could change in a month because of other leaves of absence or
Correct.
hiring changes. So we have these credits to use however we need to throughout the school year.
Correct, yep. So the contract is based on a minimum, but it also gives us kind of a maximum. The maximum is what K-12 Elevate is able to supply to us. But this works in conjunction with the Human Resources Office and then the Office of Schools. So it's really, we only deploy it when we need it, where we need it. But we kind of have that base and then their max.
I have a question, and I apologize if it was in the detail of the contract and I missed it. But is there any sort of like evaluation tool or performance redress that we are able to assess for how well this is working or the teachers are performing for us?
So, in working with the Deputy Superintendent of Grand Rapids, she has worked with K-12 Elevate. I believe this is coming on their 3rd year. And so she was able to share with me kind of some look-fors that have been best practices for them over time. And so those best practices have been shared with our SPOCs, as we call them, or our area directors, and then also our instructional division, so that we're going into those classrooms, we can assess how it's going. Are the best practices being utilized? Is additional training being needed? Even when we did the model last year at Dwight Rich, we had one particular classroom that was very successful and one that was not quite as successful as the other one. And it really came down to the training of the teacher that was in the classroom and making sure that it was a best fit for them. So in employing some of these best practice strategies, I think we're going to be able to get the right people in the right seats in the classrooms. But for our instructional division, we will definitely be stopping into those classrooms and utilizing some of those look-fors.
Thank you. All right. Seeing no additional questions, any comments on the motion on the floor? Mr. Nowinski?
Yeah, I'll just say that I'm appreciative of the HR staff filling as many positions as we have. It sounds like we're in a much better position, and also finding this unique and creative opportunity to plug in. I know we've heard from parents about the concern of not having a certified teacher in front of their students, and we know that's one of the most important things for student achievement. So I'm really excited to have this stopgap measure in addition to filling the vacancies, and encourage people to continue applying for those that are remaining. But I'm encouraged that we have this expanded this year beyond the pilot.
Just one
Mr.
more
Lopez?
question. Yep. So let's say that Classroom A has this program, then we find a teacher, full-time teacher. That program goes away, the teacher teaches the class. Is the material the same that we would be teaching anyway?
Yes, so it's still based on the Michigan state standards. So regardless
okay.
of where the teacher is certified or where they're teaching from, they are teaching Michigan state standards during the instructional time.
Presumably our curriculum.
Yep.
And the curriculum that we've adopted, so, you know.
So that we don't think that they're teaching something and somebody else gonna come teach something different. Okay,
We have to follow the curriculum.
thank you.
All right, great questions, guys. Right. They're not on a separate plan, and then it merges back in there.
They teach ours.
Right.
Our stuff.
Yep. All right, any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. That brings us to the next recommendation is to approve our athletic trainers, which I had to read this twice because I forgot that Sparrow is owned by U of M. But this is not new, it's just that they are U of M Sparrow now, so. Yep. Actually, we need to go back to item C, which is the 127 Plan for Educational Assistance Program. May I have a motion?
Madam President, I recommend that the Board of Education approve 127 Plan for Educational Assistance Program as presented.
Thank you. It's been moved by Dr. Kavanaugh, supported by Ms. Williams. Is that what I heard? Ms. Williams, thank you. And this is, I feel like this might have been where I got confused because you asked the question about assistants, but they're not assistants or subs. It's different. So I think that's why I got confused. Sorry. Any questions or comments for the motion on the floor to approve the 127 Plan for Educational Assistance Program?
Madam Chair, just ask if
Mr.
maybe a
President?
staff member could give a short explanation of
Absolutely.
what this is for the public.
Yep,
Thank you.
happy to do that. So there was a grant given by the Michigan Department of Education. It's a 27K grant. We know how we like to do the acronyms there. So it's a student loan repayment program for districts. So what we've done is enrolled as many teachers and other staff in the district as possible to receive student loan reimbursement plans. And we're working with the Ingham ISD to enroll in a program to make sure we have that. In order to basically funnel the money to our staff members so that it's tax deferred, we need to have the 127 plan in place to make sure that it's tax sheltered. So that's what the establishment of this plan is.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from board members? All right, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Great, motion passes 7-0. Now we can go back on to where I'm triggered every time I see U of M go green. Ooh, I feel better. Let's get a motion on the floor.
Madam,
Ms. Williams.
Madam President, I move that the Board of Education approves the University Sparrow Health Athletic Training Contract is presented. Notice I'm sorry, I can't say that yet.
Thank you.
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Williams, supported by Ms. Moore,
We're over here fighting.
by a hair. Okay, questions? Oh, let's get a summary of this contract on the floor for why we have contracts for our athletic trainers. Is there a member of the administration that can do that? This one's a little bit easier.
I mean, I think Cordelia wants to.
Yeah, it's okay, Ms. Black.
So, yeah, thank you. Annually, this contract is brought to the Board of Education for its approval. Basically, what it is we contract with University of Michigan Sparrow to utilize athletic trainers to assist our students while they are at practice and games. So they arrive at our 3 high schools just before dismissal to do all kinds of things, taping, checking up on whether or not, students are following their plans in regards to preparing to get them back in the arena or on the field. And so they work very closely with our 3 high school athletic directors in regards to student injuries, making sure parents are aware, contacting parents, making sure students are following up on aftercare doctor's appointments and just aftercare plans altogether, medical plans. So this contract has been in place for as long as I can really remember with Sparrow used to be Sparrow. Now it's U of M Sparrow. And so, again, there's 3. They are supervised by someone in the athletic training office at University of Sparrow, and that person, too, works very closely with our athletic directors, if that all makes sense.
We've had this contract for a long time. It's just
Yes.
a continuation of it.
Yes.
Madam President,
Sure thing, Mr. Lopez.
I know we've had this contract for years.
Yes.
My question is, has there been a development of another entity providing this kind of service to school districts in Michigan and in the greater Lansing area?
We had looked into different contractors prior, and they all cost a lot more. So we were getting a discounted rate from Sparrow before. Sorry, it's hard for me to say the other word.
Listen, my grandson graduated from U of M, so I am now divided household, but U of M Sparrow. No, I asked because, they've been doing it for a long time, and I don't have any problems with it. I just want to make sure that there was no other entity like McLaren or so that do have those services, or who might have those services, and not having an opportunity. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Thank you. And for the record, all higher ed educational opportunities that are available to our students, I support, I guess, is my official answer. Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Next on the agenda would be new business. We do not have new business, but we could argue all of our action items are new business. But anyway, we have a recommendation to go into closed session. May I have a motion?
Madam President, I move that the Board of Education recess into closed session for the purpose of considering material exempt from disclosure as is permitted by the Open Meetings Act.
Thank you. It's been moved by Dr. Kavanaugh, supported by Mr. Lopez. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Mr. Lopez,
Yes.
Mrs. Moore,
Yes.
Dr. Nevares Martinez,
Yes.
Mr. Nabisky,
Yes.
Ms. Williams, Mrs. Willis.
Yes. Motion passes 7-0, and at 7:41, we are in closed session.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Simon Verghese, and I'm a candidate for running for the Lansing School Board. And so I believe in improving student achievement and graduation rates to ensure that all students receive the support they need to excel academically, as well as they are prepared for future success. I also believe in focusing on safety, equity, and inclusion to create a quality learning environment where our students, our teachers, and our faculty feel safe, as well as everyone and every student gets access to a quality education regardless of what they look like or where they come from. I believe in preparing students or creating mentorship programs that foster both academic and life success by pairing students with caring and dedicated individuals who can provide guidance and support throughout their educational journey and provide best practices to really propel students into their future successfully. And I believe in preparing students for skilled trades and college completion to equip them with the diverse pathways for success, ensuring they are ready for the workforce or further education. And if given the opportunity, I look forward to serving alongside the board and working collaboratively with all of you. And thank you all for the time and allowing me to introduce myself.
Thank you. I forgot to turn my mic on. Any comments from our board members at this time?
Yes, Madam Chair. I was just thinking on my walk over here about the beginning of the school year for students and staff, but also for volunteers and mentors. So anybody listening still who might be interested in helping out, I know schools love to have people to kind of assist, especially this first week, grading students and check-in and traffic and all the things that come with everybody getting back into the routine. There is a form to fill out to be a volunteer with the districts on the website. I would really encourage people as they see back to school shopping ads and see their community schools come back into session to think about how they might help for an hour, a day, whatever you can give to your local school. I'm sure principals would love to hear from you next week on how you can support the startup process and continue throughout the school year.
Thank you, trustee. Are there any other comments from our board members?
Madam President,
Yes.
this Saturday at St. Joe Park, there will be first come, first serve. They're giving away free shoes to students. On Sunday at 9:13, West Holmes Road, Suite 141. If you have daughters, nieces, nephews, anybody, they're going to be giving away backpacks and school supplies from 1 to 3. They're also going to be doing that Saturday in conjunction with Larry Johnson. They're at St. Joe. They're going to be doing haircuts, so there's going to be a lot of things going on, healthcare, physicals, everything like that. So please, you guys, go out and look. If you see a box that says donate, please donate. My Big B's love me because they have a whole box. All of the stuff that the local Big B's that I'm working with is taking over to Larry Johnson. But we are trying to just make sure that kids have what they need. Yeah, and then parents, if you do, we still have the FORT program. Use our QR code. It's on the website if you need that. And parents, please get your applications in now to volunteer at your schools. Looking forward to a great year.
Thank you, trustee Williams. Any other comments from our board members this evening? All righty. So can I have a motion? Okay, Dr. Kavanaugh. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
President, I move that we adjourn.
Second, moved by Dr. Kavanaugh and seconded by trustee Williams. With that being said, with no further business before the board, the time is 8:35 and we are adjourned.